You want to do the minutes of this meeting?
No, read them.
I don't think that. That I was supposed to take over secretary.
Yeah, so it's just you read them and if there are any edits.
Okay.
But,
I,
that's it, and you just sign them after they're approved.
are we ready? Good evening, zoning board of appeals for the town of New Canaan will come to order on April 3rd, 2023. I want to just take a minute to explain how the process works. When your application comes up, we ask that you walk us through the application. Be sure that you state the hardship. The hardship is something that runs with the land that's unique to this particular piece of land. The board during the presentation may ask you some questions. We'll then, after you've gone through your presentation and questions, we'll ask if anybody is here to speak either in favor or against the application. You'll have a chance to respond to any concerns that are raised. And then we might have a little bit more discussion before we go into the business session. Once we go into the business session, we can't take any more input. And then we ask that because we're recording, that you state your name for the record if you're speaking. Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, when you're ready, if you call roll.
John Honey,
Here.
Jessica Carden here, Cynthia Dole, present, Linda Pike, Rich Caratu. No, Christy Bonner here, and then Brittany Singer.
Here.
Okay, here's my first agenda item. We're going to go.
We amend the agenda.
Yes, we'd like to amend the agenda to add a discussion of the meeting dates for the balance of the year to correct the Scrivener error. So without objection, I'd ask that we amend the agenda to include that at the end.
And I'll explain.
I'll second that.
Okay,
You're gonna vote, all in favor?
all right. So the first item, oops, this is last week. First item tonight is 112 Lambert Road, zoning variance upon the application of David Rucci, Lambert, Tui and Rucci LLC, authorized agent Michael and Taylor Cuneo, owners for a variance of section 3.5.E.2 to allow a proposed garage expansion 24 feet from the side yard setback in lieu of 35 feet in the 2-acre zone at 112 Lambert Road, map 33, block 33, lot F17.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. David Rucci, I'm here this evening with Michael Cuneo and Taylor. They're both owners of the property, 112 Lambert, and we also have Patsy Gill, who's the architect, and she should be on as well when we get to the architectural part of it. You're looking at 112 Lambert Road. Some of you may know this property. It essentially sits sort of up on a hill. It's about 30 feet above from a topography perspective from where Lambert Road is. And it's about 150 or so feet back from the actual road itself. This is just a front picture of it from the stone wall from Lambert looking up. You are looking west at this particular point. This just shows you once again sort of the roll up the hill, and you can see sort of how the driveway comes in and kind of hugs along the northern property line and comes up into the property itself. You have in front of you as well, but this is just for
No,
presentation.
that extra copy?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So in question, what we're looking to do in this particular project is, you can see there's a one-car garage there today. And what we're asking the board to do is to allow us to essentially take down this one-car garage, which is somewhat small and undersized, and add a full two-car garage to the site itself. You can note that the site is pretty well screened on the northerly part of the property. You'll see here's the existing survey on the property, and the property is challenged in a couple different ways. Number one, just the way the driveway has to come in all the way up on that north-hand side of the property. You see that that's the way they really have to come in based on where the septic system is, which is in the front of the property. And also, you all have been out there, and from the pictures that you see here, that there's quite a drop off of that property as it sort of rolls down the hill towards Lambert Road. Additionally, on this property, as you sit behind sort of where the pool is, you'll see that there's a utility, a public water line that comes across that particular part of the property. And if you all remember, you have to stay 50 feet away from that, no matter what you're trying to build. You always have to be 50 feet away from that particular line itself. And on the other side of the property, once again, you have a sharp drop off.
Where's the water line on?
It's behind the pool.
Okay.
Can you see it like right here? That's you guys see that?
Yeah.
Right there. Just moved to the proposed survey, and I tried to blow it up the survey a little bit as we go through here. And you have a copy of the proposed survey as well, if you want to look at it. It's been difficult to try to put these presentations together from like a Google slide and then getting them copied down. It just doesn't really come out great when you do that. But you'll see what the applicant is proposing to do. They're going to take down the one-car garage that's there now, and then add in an addition where some of it goes beyond that particular one-car garage. You can see that in this area here, and here's the setback line, that dotted line. This way, they're able to sort of continue to use the driveway the way it is. Sorry, I didn't do that. And then here's just sort of a blow up of where everything is. And you'll see the front of the property, once again, that drop off, you see a stone wall in this area right here that sort of holds the property up. And there's a courtyard driveway in this particular area as well. And what we're asking for is this particular piece. It's about 11 feet. So instead of the 35-foot setback, we're looking for 24 feet on this particular proposal. The back part of the property is they have a very small galley type of kitchen, and they're renovating this space right here for the kitchen. And then it's really nice to kind of open out into this particular pool area.
So it's not coverage, it's just a setback.
Just setback. Their coverage, they're pretty good. They're allowed about 5,229 square feet. The addition's only 950 square feet. So, sorry, let me start again. The existing coverage is 2,910. They're adding 950 square feet, get them to 3,860. They're still pretty far underneath the allowable coverage of 5,200. They're allowed 5,000.
If you go back to your prior plan, the kitchen pump out, that's not encroaching on the setback?
No, you see this line, there's the setback line right there. The setback line kind of goes through almost the middle of the proposal.
It's just the garage.
Yeah, it's just the garage, correct?
And it's just the second bay of the garage.
Pretty much, yeah. The first is conforming right now.
Yeah,
So this one right there is, as we look at this picture, you'll see that garage is conforming, still small. It's an older house that sits up here, but they love it and they want, to keep the older house look and that feel on the property. Here's sort of almost where the site's gonna be, right? Like right in this area is sort of what they're gonna be able to do. And fortunately for them, there's a lot of screening on this north-hand side of the property, and also the neighbor to the north. And I'll show you this as we get closer. Their house sort of sits in front of it. It sits in front of their house. So there shouldn't be really any disturbance to them whatsoever. And then the back part of the property, believe it or not, this part of the property back here, that's an Ono Bridge house. And I met this neighbor, real nice guy. He owns like 10 or 11 acres that comes down from Ono Bridge almost into this Lambert particular property. He doesn't have any issue with the plans, although I did send it to Mr. Willis and speak with him about it. And he was fine with it. Here's sort of that back little galley area, Luke, that you were looking at before, is kind of where the kitchen's gonna come out. And this is looking south, towards the neighboring property, which the neighboring properties over there is a shared driveway. And they all sit way far back, off of Lambert Road. There's not really much, to look at there, and then you can see sort of the edge of the pool fence. Once again, just another picture kind of from this side of the property. And here's, I'm sorry, once again, the pool area, and it's really gonna be, you know, the plan from the architect was, let's open the kitchen back out into this particular area. That's not a part of this variance application, but just to let you know what sort of the thought process was. Here's the architectural plans. I do have Patsy Gill on the line right now, and she can sort of run through these with you just to see sort of where certain things are being done and why we're putting them in certain places. Patsy, you want to just run through real quick? I can move the lever as you ask me to.
Hi, it's Patsy Gill with Gill and Gill Architects. So the plans now are oriented looking towards the front of the house, and the single car garage is, you I don't know if you see where the single car garage is now, the existing one, it's in the dotted line. And there's no inside connection with the garage. It has a low roof. It's not very deep. So anyway, we wanted to,
What's it on the westerly corner of the building?
This laundry
Inside
room?
the setback, oh, it's a laundry room.
Yeah, but that is outside the setback.
I think that's in the setback, isn't it?
right, the laundry is in the back corner of the garage portion. So that piece is over the line.
I think it's in the setback.
That's part of what we're asking for. And then the upstairs is completely over on, over the conforming area of the house. So the non-conforming portion is just the low part on the side.
How large is the laundry room in the setback? How many square feet? 8 feet by what, 10 feet or so, 80 square feet approximately?
That sounds right. Pat, do you have that number? What the laundry room is?
I'm looking. Yeah, it's 7 feet back to front and about 8 feet wide.
56 square feet.
And just to confirm, I'm just Rich Garrity, that I'm reading it right, so you don't plan to build above the second deck?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
The house doesn't have a basement, that's what this A1 showing? Oh, it's a very small basement.
It's just a utility type of basement with oil tank and unfinished.
How old's the house?
I think it was originally Taylor to me. So I believe, yeah.
Can you just state your name again?
Yes, Taylor Cunha. Hi.
Hi.
So I believe the original house was built in the 50s or early 60s, and then the previous owners did the expansion that you see today in the 90s.
1991.
1991, yeah. So the original house is an old, like, one-story ranch, so hence the way it's cited on the property, why it's so far over. Ideally, obviously, I think if it was built in the 90s or 2000s, you would have built it further to the left, but that's the view.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Mr. Carrier, as you see on this particular picture,
Yeah,
if there is no second floor here,
okay.
just the addition.
That would be. Helps the situation.
Here's a look at it from the rear of the property. Once again, it's not really gonna have much of an effect on that neighbor in the back since he is so far away. I'll show you some of these neighboring properties. So the closest one, as I talked about before, is this one sort of like right off to the north, okay? And that's really the one that's gonna be closest to the property line. It's about 104 feet from kind of the edge of the garage here to the edge of this other property. And like I said, it sits forward on the property. This one sits behind it, and all the construction of this new garage is gonna be really to the rear of it. We do have some really good screening here. Here's sort of a picture of that side of the property right now. And you can see even in this sort of winter, it's pretty well screened. And
Whose
then
property, those trees on yours or the neighbors?
those,
These are primarily on ours.
yeah, those are on the applicant's property, because there's a fence actually on the other side of those particular,
Right.
these
that little
trees
bit?
right here.
Is that on your property or on?
It is.
It is. Yeah, this one right here is on,
That's.
and that's gonna be coming down.
Looks like.
Yeah.
But if you have a strong opinion, we can leave it up.
Is it shed in the setback you're taking down?
Yes, there is a shed in the setback that we're taking down.
How many square feet is that?
It's small and it's halfway falling apart.
Yeah. I don't.
You can kind of tell here,
It's probably
like it's
like
kind of halfway
50
open.
feet. It's maybe like
If that.
6 by 6.
You know how long it's been there? It's just
No,
several years at least.
Oh, yeah.
it's old, it's old enough that it's been there at least 25 years, I would think.
Hmm.
Because I don't know why someone would leave it up there.
It really is kind of deteriorated, halfway falling apart. It is.
It's big down.
So here's the property that I was talking about that sits up in the front on the north-hand side of the property. And you can see that there's still some good screening there as well on this particular lot. Here's another picture of us kind of move up the driveway. And you'll see that as you move the driveway, screening gets much better. And most of these people, like this area right here, is sort of all their mechanicals, like their AC units and those things, those types of things. Here's another picture of sort of that fence that we were talking about. You can't see the shed, but that's on the other side of this tree. Like it's like right in here. Here's the rear of the property I was talking about before, the owner to Owen. You can see there's plenty of room in the back there, and also still screening along that end. They're whatever, 200, at least 200 feet away from where this is. This particular property, I'm sorry, where the renovation is going to be. And then here's a picture just looking from the back. So here's the garage, the one-car garage that's existing right now. So the garage will kind of come out like this on this slab here almost, right? Where this is. And then this is looking north. I'm sorry, this is looking east towards Lambert Road, just from the rear of the property. And then here's a picture sort of from the front of the house. If you're standing in the front of the house, looking down onto Lambert, and you see you have this retaining wall here that's sort of keeping all this stuff up on the top, the property on the top, whether it's the driveway and the front courtyard. And then here's just a picture going back down the driveway. It's probably like 40 feet from where this garage is gonna be. And then you'll see, I just took, Google Map to show you how far away these other properties were from the applicant's property. Okay, so our hardships that are justifying this, justifying the request here is the fact that we do have this topography drop on the property. Roughly goes somewhere from about like 199 to somewhere like 994 before you hit that stone wall. And then it falls back as well, and then it falls back into the septic area. So I'll just run back up to the beginning. So you can see, so here's sort of the topography here. It falls into this area here, and then you have the septic. So you can't really put anything in this particular area. of the property as far as, any sort of new structure. Plus, you would also be within the 150-foot setback at that point. It's not a issue for this board, but what P and Z sees a lot is anytime you want to put a structure within 150 feet, if it's detached in the front yard, you have to get a, special permit for that. The other reasons to justify this is the fact that you have the public water line behind in this area that you have to say 50 feet away from. And also just the architectural layout of the property. I mean, if we were going to try and put the garage over on this area where we may not have a setback issue, we'd actually have to regrade and bring the driveway all the way up and around in front of the house over the septic tank. And you're creating a ton of disturbance in this particular part of the property. And also the interior layout of the house doesn't really call for the garages to be on this side of the property. Everything's going to be on this side of the property.
Where's the 50-foot water line setback? Does that go all the way to the back of the house?
That would go this way.
No, I'm saying, where does that go to? Like, where?
Doesn't it go?
It goes to about right here, I would think.
So you can't put a detached garage behind the house, not enough room.
Right, that was
Yeah.
the next.
Right. That's the problem. Even if you add it to it, you still have to be 50 feet away from it.
That's what I'm saying, that would put you within 50 feet.
It's close. It's close. I wouldn't say it's exactly 50, it'd be very close to 50. And also what you would be doing is, I mean, you'd still have, then you have a pool here. You know, so even if you try to add it into this particular area for the detached, you still have to run grading up into this part. You'd have to run your driveway up into this part. I mean, you're creating a whole lot of more impervious surface on this lot. Just seems to be sort of unnecessary for just adding.
What's the distance though between the kitchen bump out and the 50-foot line? Right there.
I'd have to scale that off. I want to have.
What's the question?
The distance between the kitchen bump out and the 50-foot water line buffer.
So
Oh.
sorry. Here's the water line, Patsy.
Yep,
Okay, here's the setback line, because here's your setback line anyway, right? So
Right.
even if you go to be here, what's the distance? Where's the 50 feet from here to here?
well, that, where that dimension line is to the pool, that's about 35 feet from the water line. So 50 is close to where the back of our house is. The proposed addition.
The other thing we did explore, just to give you context too, is if we put the garage like to the side of the house and you pulled around into it, but that didn't work either. We would have still had to ask for the variance to go over. So we tried to play with everything we could to do something different with
Rich
it.
Carrington, again, on the left side of the house, right? So what's there that you can't put the garage? What that?
So do I need to
Yeah.
repeat my name every time I?
No,
No.
Okay, no, okay. So that is, oh, okay, so over here.
Yeah, it's fine.
It drops down there.
Yeah, it drops down mass.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's the septic, and then if you're asking what's inside the house, this is the formal living room,
Okay.
this is a den, and this is,
But
like
then
an
it drops.
office. Yeah, and it drops down.
Yeah,
Really steep.
it's really steep.
It's really steep, and then these are some of like the cable lines right here also go up over that, in addition to the septic, but it's pretty steep.
Okay.
And on that side of the house, the neighbor in the back who inquired and didn't have a problem with this, they actually own part of the land on the side of the house. So it's a 2-acre lot that we have, but if you drove by the house, you would see that they own about 1/2 an acre. That looks like it's just part of our land, and so it would get closer to the part that they bought on purpose so that there wasn't building happening over there. Yeah.
that's actually the neighbor on the land, not the one in Roanoke. There's a shared driveway
Yeah.
that goes. There's a shared driveway that's in here. It's not shown on the map, and it goes to a bunch of houses in the back. There's one big house here, one big house over like in this area. And there's like a double driveway here. In fact, I represent one of these people, so I actually checked with them first before we did that.
Do you conflict check?
I had to call him and say, can I represent these people? Yes. And since I knew it was so far away, I thought it was gonna be okay. I don't,
Any letters, any, well, John, I don't want.
Yeah,
to be able to-
Before we go to that, Rich, could you just walk us through the other alternatives that you explored? For particularly the garage?
Yeah, so the main one that we explored was turning it on its side. So adding some pavement and driveway to turn around. So like right now, if you're facing forward, the garage is, you know, straight up the driveway.
Right.
We explored turning it on its side, but realized we would still have to ask for a variance over the setback, and that would be additional work that is, you know, potentially unnecessary if we're able to just keep and maintain the look of the house
Okay,
as it is. So we did, I was out there measuring like crazy. We were talking about it, trying to figure out if it could work. At one point I said, maybe we have the solve, but that didn't work either. Yeah, and then of course, in the backyard, we explored that, but it doesn't work for the setback from the town water line and the disturbance to the land back there.
yeah, and I think one of the things, Tara, one of the things that they came into that the applicant recognized was just having to add more impervious surface to the property. And really, you know, that's gonna cause more of an issue just from a drainage perspective and maybe even from a neighbor's perspective, adding more driveway. So this seemed to be like the easiest, you know, most compatible way to do it. You're still gonna be using the same driveway, you just come right back into this, right?
Asphalt that like water can go through.
I'm sorry?
It's asphalt that's like pervious.
Yeah, but you're also right on that property line, so you're gonna be adding the new drainage policy that they have. Yes, you can do it. I mean, you can do anything, don't get me wrong. But this is the least disturbance they would have from that perspective.
some jurisdictions, I don't know about New Canaan, but that, and basically anything other than grass or dirt is considered impervious. Even gravel is considered impervious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
From this shot, it looks like if you had bumped it out sideways, you actually would have had to expand the driveway to turn into the garage even further into the
That's-
setback.
That's exactly right.
And then if you
Yeah.
had cars parked outside the garage, that'd actually probably be more in the way of neighbors if we're looking at it.
Yeah, and I think
Closer to the
we
property.
would have had to take down some of the trees over there too to make that work. My mom is a landscape architect actually in town, so I think about this stuff a lot too, of like how it's gonna look with the landscape and whatnot, and we just kept coming back to it just makes it's the least disturbance, makes the most sense with the way the house is designed and looked and for the size of the house and the property and the area. Hope that, you know, a second day isn't an egregious ask.
So to just follow up on Richard, one, we got the mailings, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay, and then any other comments from neighbors?
No, I spoke with 3 different neighbors, one that I had to speak with. He also sent it to a neighbor in the rear, and he said they had no objections to it. I didn't talk to the neighbor on the side, I never heard from them.
Okay,
In the front, I only heard from the neighbors around actually the back of the property, but my assumption is that I haven't heard from them that they were okay with the project. I didn't go out and ask them.
Would we be okay? Or would you be okay if it's a part of any condition we require that there be screening continue to be along the fence line, the property line with the neighbor, so that, you know, they're not looking into the garage as it currently is, but
Additional screening or the screen that's.
screening that's either there or acceptable replacement, but we don't,
Yeah,
because some of that, obviously, I'm guessing you're gonna trim back and clean up and.
yeah, I think there's an old tree or two that we would probably need to replace something with, but we'll get an arborist to confirm, but that's no problem for us. Again, you know, part of our purpose here is to do the least amount of disturbance possible with this, so yeah.
So some of
definitely.
those larger, the white pines you're gonna have to take down,
I don't know for sure. We have to get an arborist out. I mean, we are not planning to, only if an arborist says that it's dead and needs to be replaced,
So
but.
that could be problematic, because like, the house, thinking as a condition of maintaining those trees, you know, that's obviously a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want them maintaining an unsafe
That's
grade, right?
Yeah. Could we work something?
But I
out?
don't think it has to be that tall, you just want screening along there.
Well, I think the fact that they're full-size trees is nice, so I think if they take a full-size tree down, and now go back a full-size tree, but at least, you know, 4 or 5 inch, you know, diameter tree, so it get big in the next 15 years, you know, or 20 years.
I think beneficially, we are seeing it without it being spring, summer season, and there's still pretty good screening right
Yes.
now as it exists in winter. And the arborist will tell you if you just need to trim trees
Yeah,
and limbs, or if you have to take it. So it sounds like they're taking a lot of the right steps to ensure that there's still fires.
we're not planning on doing anything extra above and beyond what an arborist would recommend, just because we're newer to owning the property. We just want to make sure everything is healthy and in the
I would
right
think you
shape.
probably wanna take down those trees. They're white pine trees, they always fall on the stone and stuff, and the arborist is gonna come and say,
Yeah.
they're not. I mean, some of them at least.
They-
I mean, David walked up.
I mean-
Walked up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, you know, they have a pool in the back anyway, so they're gonna want privacy in that particular area to begin with. So
Yeah,
I'm not, and also, like I said, this house is really set forward
it is.
a lot more than you think it
Yeah.
is. Like, here's sort of the beginning of that curve of the driveway, and that's sort of where that house sits.
Yeah.
And here you can kind of see it on the corner here, that's sort of where it sits. So as you come back up into this area, they don't really have anything back there.
And doesn't their property end before the?
Yeah, I mean,
So I think I think the back of their, it's so far forward that I think the back of their property actually
yeah.
ends before this garage starts. And so what is to actually directly to the side is part of, I think it's like a what, 10-acre
Yeah,
estate, it's the Ono house behind where he owns
Looks like just some type of.
acres.
field
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's all it is.
essentially that,
Kind of
yeah.
a shed or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as the town planner, you know, we did put into the application, an overview, like a Google map of all the other properties in the town assessment. And you can see that sort of what happens in here, this area. Yeah, please. Do I have to get off?
No,
Okay,
this is just the.
right. So here's our property. See how this, oh, you gotta do it. See how that property, that big one in the back goes almost all the way to. You know, so this neighbor in the front. Their property line is actually like kind of right in their back property line is almost right in the middle. So even if they wanted to do work or add something in the back, they would still have to be 35 feet from the rear of the property, 35 feet from the side, so it's not really going to affect them if they were gonna build something as well.
Right.
And their house is pretty, I mean, it's done, that's a new house.
Yeah, that's a brand new house.
So is the entire second floor outside the setback?
Yes, the new second floor is outside the setback.
So wouldn't it be a problem, if, yeah, there's a condition that, you know, the part in the setback supposed, has to stay 1 story.
Oh, yeah,
I want a little bit of the other part to stick in, like, screw the project up, not put that as a condition.
Yeah, you can put that as a condition.
Yeah,
The
we're
whole
only
second
asking for
level.
second floor of what we could already build without the variance, yeah.
Okay, is there anybody here to speak either in person or online in favor of the application?
There's no one on.
No one on, okay, so there, I presume then there's nobody against the application. Anything else that you'd like to add before we go into the business session?
No. Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
David, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see, or. Yeah, that is son, his oldest son is David, who was in my son's class at high school. Well, from elementary school through high school.
I know I'm looking younger.
Yeah, you are, you are.
But anyway,
And
I'm.
he's getting older, so if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have Christie sit for this, just given the timing and everything.
no problem.
Okay, terrific, so, we're in business session.
Did I make a motion to go business?
I don't think we do. We never, I think we're okay. Any, Any comments from my fellow board members? Jessica, anything?
I feel pretty comfortable with the state of hardships, you know, with the topography, the placement of the sewer, like the water line that they have in town, there's clearly a lot of restrictions for this property, and they haven't come in here with, you know, a 3-car garage proposal. They've really come in with a minimalized proposal, and the placement of the other neighbors are all quite a bit distance away, where it seems like it'll have minimal impact. So I'm pretty comfortable with it, even as requested, but I'm also okay if there's a need for other members of the board to feel more comfortable with stating 1 or 2 of the previously discussed limitations attached to the motion.
Pretty, any?
Yeah, I agree with Jessica, and I, feel like that, you know, we're keeping the impervious surface to a minimum.
I'm in agreement. I'm fine with what they're recommending. Having walked the property, I think that everything that's been stated is true to fact. And, you know, what they're looking to do, is probably the best option.
Terrific. Anything from you?
I agree with the hardships, I'd also add that I think taking the shed down makes it more conforming. So I'd like to add the condition the shed comes down, and do that anyway. I think to make it more conforming, kind of justify the laundry room for me. We're always seem to be okay with some flexibility in the garage, 24 feet, 4 inches. We've had a number of variants we gave for 24-foot garages, you know. Laundry is a little more of an ask, but taking the shed down kind of, I feel like it balances out, so we can consider making something more compliant and granting a variance. I think it should stay 1 story within the setback. I'd like to have that in our decisions, because we had other variants in the past where allowed 1 story, and then someone comes back, and we don't know if it's being 1 story was part of the rationale on that, so I'd like to say that in the decision, so that, you know, 25 years from now, someone's looking at it, they don't wonder if that was a condition.
So when you say 1 story, you may want to clarify just because,
There's no story above the garage.
but so do you mean that, or can there be a half story if there is a half story?
I think they, in the plans, they have like a pitch, you know, I don't know what you call it, I forgot the, you know, it's not like a flat roof. It's a,
But so,
which is
you know, you
kind
just
of-
want to
sorry.
make it clear if there is already a half story there,
I
no?
don't think it's a half.
Okay.
Well, I think we'd like to be clearer than based on the plans that's submitted, because what often happens 25 years from now is we don't have the plans.
There's no, well, we could add the architect, there's no story above it, just.
Okay, so then you could just, instead of saying keep it to 1 story, you can say no, but it's space above.
No, but then it's got space if it's unfinished.
We don't want to, I think how about this, that the height is limited to what's drawn.
Yeah, the height limit is on the plan.
Okay. So do we know what that height is? You have this there. While people looking that up, they'll add it.
The next condition of that,
Yeah,
and I was thinking, you know, maintain the screening between the two, because there's a lot now, and I like that. I don't think that's practical or use there. I think it'll be the project now. I don't want to like tie them into like keeping trees next to the project, but then if they take down any mature trees, they have to plant, you know, a 4-inch or so caliber tree, something, you know, so in our lifetimes it'll be screening it again. If they want to maintain the screen, they can,
The
but
screening is a challenging one. Again, for the same reason you just said it, like 20, 25 years from now. We're not gonna see what was painted there.
well, the
Just feel like
plan
it
shows
puts
what.
them
the
at
plan
risk
shows
of
trees
being
there. The plan shows,
in violation.
that's kind of an important factor to me there, is that it's so well screened from the line.
But we've also, to your point, approved some in the past that are even closer to a neighboring house than this one. I mean, this one, the benefit right now is that the houses that are near neighbor houses are actually quite a bit distance away. And it sounds like one lot was essentially acquired and was purchased to have to preserve as a non-building.
But I don't want to grant something in this property, and then we look at another property and say, well, it's too close to this one, you know, in the future, it's a point we have to be screened as it is now.
yeah, so But your concern is what's there today may have to, be reasons outside the owner's control may have to change,
Yeah, we have,
right?
we have
For
for
safety,
every
for
single time
example.
this is, we have that issue.
Well, so. Any thoughts on how to word the screening so that we don't create a problem?
How many trees are there now? Big trees there, parallel to the garage too?
More than that.
On the whole, this might, on the whole line of the property, there's probably more, but in that space, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, there, I mean, on the, here, there are 3 here, right here, right? These are the ones that are on their property.
So I'd say any of those 3 trees, no, only 2 on the property, just this one and that one.
1,
Oh, yeah, there's
3, this pine is. You know, right on the property line.
I'd say any of these 3 are removed. They need to be replaced, you know, obviously not the same size, but.
Absolutely.
I'd say 4-inch, I'm like 2 inches, 4 inch. I planted a tree in front of my house at 6 inches, I think 6 inches is like the biggest, that's like, you know.
That you can get.
Yeah, I mean, look, and everything bigger than that's like a project,
Okay.
I'd say, I don't know, 4 inches.
I have to say that I'm not necessarily inclined to get into the whole screening at all. I think we should kind of stay away from it. And having walked the property where we're looking at putting screening, there's really nothing there on the other side of the property. You do have kind of like an empty field, which is behind where that shed is. And then it's the neighbor's backyard. There's nothing really there that they can see. There's a fence as well as then there already is, I believe they might be for sympathy bushes or whatever, that it's pretty well blocked from a screening perspective. So I'm not inclined to have to put any restrictions or, you know, conditions saying that there needs to be a replacement of if any of these 3 trees come down. I don't think they're giving much screening right now. It's more height wise as opposed to not necessarily close to the ground.
I agree with you. I don't. And I think it puts people in a situation where they could easily be violating the grant of the variance. If it's not specific enough, or even if we have said, I've seen too many contracts in my time where you're already putting somebody at risk of being in violation, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the intent.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I think, you know, for the same reasons we've been stated earlier, of trying to be specific about what could be built above or not be built, we'd be putting them the same, it's the same argument here.
I don't think so, because we know where the 3 trees are gonna plant, they come all those down
Yeah,
and
but-
replace it.
You just said, like, why would they want certain birch trees to like possibly fall on their house? Like, then are you gonna go into the plan about telling them what trees they can plant there? I don't think it's necessary. I think this is one of those rare instances where the neighbors are all a good distance away. And they've really come in with pretty minimized plans.
I feel like we only look at the facts on this property, look back at the neighbor's house further from the line, the fact that the neighbor has like bushes on their property or things like that. We're not in control whether that stays or not, so. consider that.
The only thing that we have done when we've asked for screening is typically done where the properties, the neighboring homes are much closer together, and you're trying to be sure that we're maintaining privacy for bedrooms or views or whatnot versus these homes, which are much farther apart. And even to the point where there's minimally like almost 55 feet distance because 25, well, no, 60 feet, 25 feet the property line here, and then another 35 feet to the setback for the neighboring property. So you've got permanently, you know, a buffer. That's when I've seen us use the screen.
Yeah, and I'll add that it's not like this is where they're sort of a porch.
You're not seated, so you.
Okay,
Yes.
oh,
Yes. Yeah, no, we're in, okay, sorry.
Sorry, I don't know if
Sorry.
you said anything before, just.
All right,
Yeah,
Yes,
I tend to agree with you that, I mean, given how far away the houses are and where they're actually located in relationship to this house and. This potential garage, that we probably don't need to get into the issue of screening right here. And we could just leave that out of this, I do agree with the roof line, I think that we should say something about that. So that was good, but the screening, I think we can not say anything about that.
You guys can go how you want, but when I look at what's important to me is that, you know, there's the existing screen, I think that's an important factor.
I understand, but the problem is, Luke, then, well, I don't know, it's challenging it because we're on any property, not just this property, we're putting ourselves or the owner, ourselves meaning the town or the owner in a position where there's an ongoing monitoring of a condition that is somewhat vague. Right, so if these trees come down, the screening, you know, the screening will diminish. If the trees come down because of, you know, they're dead or they fall in the storm, right? Now, have they screened with how many other trees? How high do they have to be? What's the density from here, you know, from ground to 6 feet or 8 feet? Well, you know, some level, I don't, it becomes a little bit problematic too. And I'm not sure, and I didn't raise the issue of screening. My personal opinion here is that given the distance, I'm not sure it's worth going down that rabbit hole. I think, you know, in my opinion, is there a motion?
I would move that we grant the variance, based on the hardship of the topography, the water line and the sewer placement, and also restrict it to the height as depicted in the current plans that we're reviewing, with also the condition of the shed being removed.
Do we know, Sarah, were you able to determine?
So there's an elevation sheet, it's not labeled, but we have the physical copies in the office, so I can scale it and provide an actual number when I write out the official
Okay.
conditions on the approval. But so how you set it for now, I think is acceptable.
And I second.
Okay. Christie, would you like to start the voting? Any other any other discussion?
So she just made a motion, so,
Yeah, I just on the motion,
I mean, but then there was a second, so.
okay.
I vote in favor.
Mahoney in favor,
Carden in favor.
Dylan in favor.
congratulations, your variance is
Thank you
great.
very much.
And please,
Appreciate it.
sounds like you will, but the screening is important.
We will,
Okay,
we will.
Definitely.
thank
And it's
you.
not necessary for it to come down.
Right, well, we want you to be safe.
Yeah. Those storms are tough.
Yeah, there was, you got a lot of spring cleaning to do.
Yeah.
Gosh, did you go to the property? Oh my gosh. I need to. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I'll get it. Once we're in the business. Session,
I
those
can.
warrants needed.
I can.
Can't talk.
Okay.
That's why we'll try and exhaust everything and get your
I-
opinion
got it.
before we do that.
Got it,
Okay?
got it.
Yes, I think because you were both here last time, but I think Rick, you
Okay.
for this one.
It's
keeping
approvals going.
Yeah. Hi there.
I don't know what you guys have for exhibits, I have some. You have the letter, do you have anything?
We don't.
I did
we
not
don't have
print
the
it.
letter yet, but they have the
I'd
plans.
love to give you a copy of it.
Kara, can you present the plans and stuff? I did not bring anything with me.
So they should have been provided.
Oh,
But I'm
here?
also project that.
Here they are. I'm sorry. Good.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
They sent me that extra sheet.
All it is that one setback.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So do you have the original? Oh, yeah, that's right, 28.
No, I have actually no.
No,
I'm saying there's no reason I go about some problem for not.
No.
I don't know about it.
So when you're ready.
Okay, so our next. Agenda item was continued from our last meeting. It's 11 Parish Lane. Zoning variance upon the application of Dan Radman Architects, authorization for Sean Hurley owners. For a variance of section 3.5.d.1 to allow relief from total building coverage on this non-conforming lot. The lot is 1.133 acres in a 2-acre zone. Based on current zoning regulations, total allowable building coverage is 3717 square feet. For a 1.33 acre lot, proposing a garage addition that would create a total building coverage of 4525 square feet, an increase of 808 square feet in the 2-acre zone. At 11 Parish Lane, map 31, block 11, lot G25. Hello,
Sounds great.
welcome back.
Yeah, I'm John Hurley. I'm the homeowner and I'm on solo tonight. So I was here on March 6th, like you said, John, and we requested an additional 1,360 feet for a garage. We made some modifications to the length and the width and took out a mudroom. And we were able to get it down to an additional 530 feet. That we're asking for. We were asking for 1360.
It was 808 over, they're now asking for 538.
808.
Yeah.
808 over.
538.
So the page 2 of this letter, I don't have to read the letter, it gets longer, but the backside has a nice matrix.
Yeah.
That summarizes 33% reduction, and it's really as simple as that. There is an exhibit that looks like it was picked up correctly. 48 feet, 11.5 inches is the correct setback. But I think on the initial submission, it was still the old before we reduced it.
This is Rich. Yeah, I mean, so, you know, as I recall from the last time, I think really the only claim of hardship is that you're in a 2-acre zone, but your house is, you know, the lot is under. I personally have that same situation. And is that enough of a hardship to grant a variance of any kind? And, you know, that's what we have to address. Tonight.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's so just like we discussed last month, what the garage is gonna be is a 3-bay garage with hopefully a place for an au pair to live up above. I actually almost submitted a picture of my current garage just as an exhibit. You guys will love it. I'm a Vermonter. I do everything myself. I have a wood splitter, lawnmower. I got everything in there, and I got 2 boys with cars and toys everywhere we need storage. So it is a 3-bay garage. But as discussed last week, you know, my question was, is it the bays or is it the square footage? And I was told, no, it's a square footage. So what we try to do is we made the best effort to shrink everything down. The mudroom and the length and the width of the garage. We didn't think we could go much smaller than 24 feet on the width. And then we came in a couple feet on each side.
So this was the previous proposal.
What was the length of the previous one?
Sorry, what did you say?
What was the length of the previous one? It's 144,700.
The length of the garage.
Right.
Was, 34.7.
Well, no, that's the new one.
Oh, yeah,
That's
the
the old
new
one.
revisions, the new one.
Sorry.
36. Width 27.2.
Jessica?
They've taken 3 feet off, that's all in the front half. And what were the changes you made with the mudroom connector?
So there was storage room, on that elbow, and we eliminated that.
Yeah, whereas character, the question is, does it have to be a 3-bay garage? If it wasn't, then it conformed.
You'd still be over coverage in the year.
Yeah.
Go back.
I can pull up the.
Well, no, because they have this thing, 552 square feet
The word,
available.
Right, but then,
What's 24 times 24?
$576.
I mean, so the clean size garage is pretty close. I mean, might be 15 feet over. It's not gonna be a big difference. 24 by 24, we just went through that on the last property. Those are like, that's the same dimensions we always said. For 2 cars.
Well, that's, are we understanding it correctly? So what is the second line represent available building coverage?
that's where I would not need permission for.
We wouldn't need permission.
And so why aren't we comparing, again, sorry for the question, but why aren't we comparing 552 if that's what's available
Because it's 552 and 538
together?
together. is what
Yeah.
they're proposing.
Yeah.
That's what it's at.
they're asking for an additional.
Right, so that's why it's, you're,
You don't want to over.
So it looks like you took out, I'm just looking at last month's, submission, it looks like you took out the storage room and narrowed the garage by like 1.5 feet or so.
Yeah.
That, don't have that about right?
Yeah, the length and the width.
Oh, and the length too, okay, 27 to
24.
24, so.
Which is a lot, and that was that storage I hoped for.
I think the questions are third,
yeah,
but at least the way I see it.
Yeah.
You know, you just saw lots of two car garages, or I don't want to say median on, but you know, we see them a lot. I think most people feel 2 cars are normal. I have a 2-car garage, 1 car for my wife's car, 1 car and my son's stuff. But I think it's pretty standard.
and you're cleaning the windshields on the. side.
Yeah, I think that's
In the
pretty
winter.
typical right in town, but
Yeah, that's what
I think 2 cars, but the 3rd car,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm having some trouble seeing how that's the minimum necessary use of your property.
yeah, I mean, I guess I felt like. Thinking back at the last meeting for me, it was really a space issue, right? If they could get the 3rd car in. You know, was a total number. I mean, I think that's what drives the overage is the 3rd car, right? But
With 3 cars, I'm gonna get it much tighter than this. Unless they want like a detached route, and I don't know if that's like, you know, that seems like a big change.
But you're still square footage coverage.
But it's gonna be much smaller.
Yeah.
Only because you get rid of that connector.
Exactly.
Well,
what
but
is, so.
12 by 24, how many is that? That's 240. You still wouldn't be under.
No,
If they clean it,
24 is 288.
okay.
even a regular, let's say they just got rid of this, they took this whole thing off here.
Right,
And let's say they just like box, like a 24 by 24 box, it's still like 15 square feet over or something. You know, they just took a 2-car garage for a year with like none of this stuff, they still gonna need a variance, still gonna be like minimally over. Not a lot, but it's, you know, like 15 or 20 square feet. Cause they
right,
have,
but if you take all that off,
they have 552 available, and a 24 by 24 garage is 576. If they just had this and got rid of all that, they're still gonna be
Right. It's still,
24 over.
but it's still a little more powerful.
Yeah, but it's a lot, but to put a detached garage, I mean, I like having a detached garage, but some people don't, I don't think, and since they're in California, have a detached garage is like. Coming back to the minimum like
well,
necessary,
remember they're putting their stuff over the garage, right? They're gonna put an in-law unit and things over the garage.
but that's.
So having it
here.
Hmm?
The coverage here though,
Yeah, but what I'm suggesting with that is if you have a detached garage, that doesn't work then.
it does, I have my own, but my garage is detached. It's really great during the pandemic, and actually work from home.
If your kid doesn't come knock you
Why,
out.
yeah. But I'm saying that's. Even if they did that, they're still gonna need a variance.
What was the history of this being a 1.133 lot sized in a 2-acre?
So I.
When did that, rezoning take place?
I don't know if it was ever rezoning, or just, honestly, there are so many lots in New Canaan like this that not much was thought about that. They're all over the place, you know, in the previous application, that next door neighbor we were talking about, whose backyard or back property line ended up their front of their house. That's a 1-acre lot in a 2-acre zone, so, I mean, this was. I believe this subdivision was in the 50s, and so, you can amend subdivision regulations, so they may have just. You know, because the math didn't work out, they may have just said, okay, we're gonna have this smaller lot just because. And I mean, the zoning regulations were much more lax, you know, in the 50s than they are today.
Do you have any conditions in the property that would impede an accessory structure, topography, water lines, other conditions, grading?
No, they just put an accessory right where this one.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the homeowner if they want to try to phrase what the other hardship might be. In their words, I don't, in case they know of one.
No, I don't think that, I mean, the water line comes through there, but I mean, that'll be. Doing a slab on grade there, shouldn't be an issue.
I remember, I was on mixing, we had a lot of electrical.
Yeah.
Which is why the garage is coming out, you have that big
Right.
elbow,
Right.
where all your utilities are in that back corner of the
Exactly
house.
right. So up in the upper top right, this picture is where all the utilities come in. My main feed comes in there. I have a transfer switch. I have 2 condensing units, all up there. That's why we want to stay away from there. Propane tank, which is all my heat and hot water, and then come this way with it. So we don't want to go anywhere near that.
Right.
And the patio doesn't count on coverage here, Sarah.
No,
There's nothing they can do to help with the coverage here.
no, I mean, it is a 1.5 story house. And you can have 2.5 stories in that zone, so.
And this was the house, so I think you had no basement in this house,
We
correct?
had a small one, just like the previous
Right.
application, just like utilities.
I mean, that's.
We limited stories.
I mean, that's a fact, but they're, you know, they could have had the square feet. But
Oh, they could have had a much, they could have had a
Much
much
bigger.
bigger home.
That's what I'm saying, they tear it down.
So I think that's what Dan last month said. I mean, the hardship is the size of the lot for this area. It's just,
I don't think it's the size of the lot so much as that you could get. By going vertical, you could essentially get everything you want, and you're not doing that. And maybe going vertical would be more of a. I don't know if ISO is the word, but I mean,
well, it is, but the, right where it says the G in dwelling, there already is a second story there. And so we are going up, obviously with the new garages. So,
so that's gonna be 2 stories,
yeah,
But it was one and a half.
that's 1.5.
is it 1.5 or 2 stories?
So they represented it as 1.5, and that section he's talking about is only 1.5 stories at that point as well.
The new garage.
The new garage and the area over
And
here.
it's 1.5, because the sidewalls aren't full, like 7 feet or whatever, or it makes it 1.5.
So it's, yeah, the sidewalls, but then it's also a function of what percentage the floor area on the second floor is at least 7.5 feet for higher ceilings as compared to what's below it.
That's what,
Yeah.
so I had to do with my garage, I was just saying, we had to keep one, Steve, we had to keep the sidewalls 5 feet high.
Yeah.
Because then it made it so it wasn't a second story yet.
Learn something every day.
That's when I got interested in the zoning board, when I had my own home.
It is fascinating.
People were kind of walking me through like what I had to do to make it, so I didn't get it very.
Yeah, our issue is like, to explain to you, like, there's, including myself included, a lot of undersized lots in a 2 acre or 4 acre zone.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to say that reason alone is a hardship, because we would have 500, 1,000 people lined up.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, the homeowner purchased a lot knowing you had 1.3
Right.
acres, and whatever you have to live within the 1.3 acres, just because it's in a 2 acre zone,
right.
it doesn't, it's irrelevant in a way, because you just have a box to live within. I mean, just because all your neighbors may be different, that doesn't matter. And that, you know, we're just trying to find a hard.
Well, I think it does matter, I think if you're the only one. Let's say the entire area is 2 acres,
Right.
and you're the one that's 1.1 acres, I think that because you're unique, I think that's a better factor. Than if you're, and then if there's other similar sized lots here, if there's other similar sized lots here, I think it's definitely like an adverse factor.
The
Like-
challenge, oh, sorry, I didn't want to. Think you're, I thought you were any nice. Condition. I think a lot of the challenge too for us is the house as it currently exists has a garage already,
Yeah.
has 2 bays, so it's. To Luke's point and to Rich's point,
Mhm.
it's not that you're somehow impeded from using the land you want to use it, because you already are using it with 2-car attached garage, so. There is a plan right now, as the lot is currently sized, though perhaps undersized to some of the others, but. In this, you can see here, it's not so undersized compared to, there's only one that's actually properly 2.05, you know.
And I think
adjacent
that's,
to you.
I think the courts see that as a factor that would weigh against the application.
Mhm,
That
I agree.
it is, like if it was the only one that was undersized, I think it would come in favor, so I think. But since they're all undersized there, I don't think it's like unique as to that property.
So I agree, I'm still struggling with what the hardship would be.
So I can help probably, or maybe, yes, it is similar to the rest, but they do all have 3 big garages, which wouldn't matter. To answer your question, Rich, is when we bought the house, I also didn't see the 3rd kid coming, you know, and that's
Yeah.
a month away. That was a surprise. And to answer your question, the cars don't fit in our garage. You can't even pull one.
I mean, I would agree that it'd be reasonable for them to take what's the dimensions of your existing garage? It looks pretty small,
18 feet,
18 feet wide.
18 feet long. If I remember last time, I put a tape on it and with some steps, because there's 2 steps that come down the car, can't fit in.
But how wide?
It's 2 bays, so 20 feet, yes, 22 maybe.
mean, the minimum size, I feel like is practical for like a modern car. And I'm not talking like a Suburban. I'm talking like a Subaru. Forester.
I just put that as a condition.
No, it's like.
You have nothing to do.
No, it's like.
We literally measured our
It's like
garage
20
dimensions and price and shop for cars.
Yeah, that's what we do. too.
That fit, so I completely understand the point.
It's like 24 by 20.
Yeah,
Like that's like.
no, this
You
was
know,
not,
so I
We've
feel like.
never had a car in the garage.
So I feel like the fact that they have a garage now, they might have something with 2 doors on it. But I feel like that, it's reasonable to say, doesn't. You know, and I don't wanna say they're entitled to, but I think it's a reasonable ask. To ask for something you can fit like a modern vehicle.
So one other fact
But
I
the
throw
three
out
cars
here
have
is,
some.
is that if it were 2 acres, they would by right have another 1,000 feet of coverage.
For when you need it.
Above what they currently have. Or they're asking for. So it would be 57 or 5227 is the coverage at 2 acres.
Or is that relevant?
Yeah, that's the
Well,
hardship.
I guess one of the mitigating factors is they're saying that that is the hardship, is that the lot is undersized, but they're not trying to push it. Like, we've had people who've come in and said, well, my lot's undersized, but give me coverage that's more than
Yeah,
if I
that's not a
were
real
conforming
ask.
lot.
That's not a real ask.
Hmm.
I feel like the other, I think like the whole board is having trouble with that third.
So the last time we met, I asked this very question and it was not the bays that was the issue, it was the coverage.
Well, because if you got the coverage down, to something closer than like the 2 bays, that's why they're not like fungible, but I think we were trying to say last time, like, we're not looking at it saying. Well, we're not gonna approve 3 cars, we're looking at it with the square feet thing, or what we've approved in the past. And I don't remember us ever approving of a 3-bay garage.
So can I ask a dumb question? If I closed off the 3rd bay right there and
No, because then like, what do you need it? for? You have to give it for like a minimum.
And I mean, the issue is coverage, right? So again, you come back to. For me, it comes back to coverage, right? Not, if a 3rd bay would fit, 3rd bay would fit.
Right.
But, so I would, or if we were
was
close,
538, that's what we're here, 538 on the table. You know,
Correct.
it came down from whatever it was, 808, 33% reduction from the last meeting. So that's what we're here, is that enough? And I can throw in the shed, Luke, if you want to make it.
Even though like it seems like we give you a hard time, like. I think it's important, because this is the way I was treated, at least by Steve, who told me that I didn't need a variance, and to do it A, B, C, and D, you won't need it, is to try to. If there's a way to make it work.
Yeah, we wanna make it
We
work.
wanna make it work,
We did.
but that's why like when I went to the last applicant, I said, well, can you take the shed down? It's like the laundry room is like a little more than we normally ask, if you take the shed down, it's so many square feet. And it's in the setback, you put the laundry room on, it's the same number of square feet, I feel like, well, 6 to 1, half dozen the other, like, we're trying. Not to be adversarial here, because I think that's an important characteristic of this board.
And now people like you in this town with
Yeah.
3 kids, that's what makes that.
But at the same time, we're limited
Yeah.
to giving the minimum amount of relief to allow them to make like reasonable use of their property. And the 3 cars this went over, I just think it's. It's kind of the difference between like a need and a want. Like if it's a need, and I don't know if that's a legal distinction. But it kind of comes down to that, I feel like it's definitely reasonable to have.
the point that you've made is. We granted variances when there are hardships for a second garage bay, because that was viewed as being a baseline.
Correct.
Situation to have reasonable enjoyment of your property, right? We struggled when it's gone past that. And could have gotten wrapped around the axle on the last one over the laundry.
so the frame shed is actually. What, only 13.7 feet from the property line?
Sounds scared, I can.
Yeah, so it actually, and I spoke at the last meeting, it does not count towards coverage, so. You get one shed that's under 200 square feet on your property, that doesn't count towards coverage, so whether they remove it or not, like, even if it's non-conforming as to setbacks, it doesn't.
That's more the point I was saying. I mean, to Luke's point, a lot of times we look at, is there a way we can make it, you know, if we're making it non-conforming with a coverage grant, is there something else we've done that is or presently non-conforming that might make it?
That's why I
Kind
have
of
shed, there's
That's for the.
1956 house, there's no storage, there's no room for a car, the garage is. much
Even,
like
even
the
if the shed doesn't count.
I had to
coverage,
chop off as part of this condition, the storage that we were trying to add. There's literally no storage, I had to build a shed,
Like even,
But
and your shed is 12 by 16.
8 by 12.
all right, it helps.
Like, even if the shed doesn't technically count as cover, is the shed in the setback, or what's the setback, the shed 10 feet there?
No, it's, you have to meet accessory setbacks, so it's, 45 feet from their two front yards and 35 from side.
So-
And did you build the shed?
Mhm.
You built in the setback?
Yeah, I didn't know, I just, it's a,
So at this point, it's,
Doesn't help.
when did you build it?
probably 2016 when we bought the house.
Okay, so I mean, if you built it in 2016, it's by 2019, it's legally non-conforming after 3
Okay,
years.
so even if it doesn't technically count as coverage, I think it does make the property more non-conforming. Or to get rid of a structure that's able to exist because it's grandfathered, but it violates zoning, like on the things like. So let's say it picks up 12, what was it, 12, 10 by 12, you said?
It's overall, it's 9 by 12 and a half. It was.
It was like 120 square feet.
It's like 100, yeah.
It's the lowest.
The house, the 100, I feel like the 100.
Are we allowed, not saying we would do this, but are we, if, let's say we approve the garage, subject to him taking away the shed, are we allowed to do
You
that?
can condition that, and then before you get the CO on the house, you verify that it's.
Okay, and how would, what are your thoughts on that again? I'm sorry, if we
I'll take it down, absolutely,
after you build it.
because what's in the shed would go into the garage.
So let's say. Let's say we started with the position. Of 24 by 24. Is a reasonable. Two bays. That's 576 square feet, he takes on a shed of 112 square feet, that gives him 688 square feet. He's at 808. 130 square foot difference.
At 538, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm a little confused.
Oh, you're 5.
It's 538.
Yeah, last girl over 538.
Because they're already under coverage together before presenting this plan.
Okay, so 538 times the shed.
But the shed doesn't.
But no, I got it. It just.
As a
It
condition.
and also the fact that it's still not.
I'm saying,
the set.
I'm saying if he has available 552. Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah, because then I'd be double counting that, unless we have 576, let's say, is reasonable. You don't have 576 plus, you only, yeah, have 576 plus 112.
Christie,
Yeah, 688, and how much
you
you
still talk, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I was just looking at what you did with the existing garage, and you turned that into a family room.
Yes, exactly.
Is there any chance you could re-storage over there so that you could help yourself with storage and I know that you didn't like the idea of putting the au pair over the existing bedrooms, but is that an option? Then you could cut down on your storage and potentially your garage.
The existing bedrooms on the second floor, above the new family room or on the other wing?
On the other wing is only one story, right?
Yes. The issue there is this, hip is a vaulted ceiling, so there's no way to get over there without walking through the kitchen and the common area, so we're trying to keep the au pair separate. The au pair would basically be living with us.
Right.
You should have to go down and up.
Yeah.
You know, up next to our shower and up a set of stairs if we go up that way. So it just,
What about storage or something else over there?
yeah, I mean, you could add a half story, I guess, for storage over there. But again, it's just not something that's, you know, what we need to store is sort of the kids' stuff, and that should stay over in the kids' area. That's kind of what the family room is all their junk. And, you know, that's the flow for.
So the storage is looking for it more for everyday type of living as
Yeah.
opposed to put it away and bring it out in 3 months.
Right.
Say it's 24 by 20.
Active use.
Let's say we gain 24 feet, square feet there, you don't put all. If we want to put 21 feet, it's 21 feet. Right, so it
We have checked all the neighbors, they're good with that helps. Of course they are, they all 3 bay drive.
Could you build it without the margin around side of the house and drove in with the other way, they're reading, you can like flip it on the side, you have a path that you can flip that.
Coming from the north,
So like you flip it, so you drive in.
All the electrical and.
So when you flip it. Yeah, so it.
and the problem.
Essentially, if you go to this part, could you turn this and have it attached like directly to your house?
That whole back section, Luke, there's all electrical and
Yeah.
water lines and everything else that would all have to be
But
moved.
they can move that.
Propane power.
But the thing, if you get rid of, because then if you get rid of that area, that's a lot of square feet.
Depending how big it is, you're gonna have a setback issue.
I don't know, it looks like there's a, we don't have a ruler to scale it, but it looks like maybe they weren't.
You drive it, that.
Yeah, well, you can, but
That's the thing, so if you flipped it.
And then I had 2
drove
driveways.
the side, like the last lady was saying, she measured out to see if it worked. There's a lot, awful lot of square feet is still that, you know, cars, breezeway connected to
Yeah, what is that again?
breezeway.
well, no, it's more than breezeway, there's stairs going up, there's a powder room, there's stairs, there's doors.
So it's a big area, not a big car garage, it's all there, you know,
There's not a lot in there though.
but it's an additional power room necessary, I mean, it's.
I get their point to a degree. One of the neighbors at 22 Parish Lane is on 1.52 acres and claims to have 5,800 square feet. Which
Coverage?
violates the 2 acre.
No, but remember,
No, I was
coverage is not total.
No, true,
Yeah,
but
it doesn't matter if you have. a
no, that,
story.
it is true that,
And that's
but
what I was saying before.
it's just what they're asking for, at least as a comparative, like size, appearance.
But
I mean, if
Yeah.
you drive the neighborhood, I don't think what they're asking for is
Out of line.
out of line with the neighborhood.
It is also important to note that as of right, every property in New Canaan can have up to a 5-car garage before they need special permission. So I understand historically you guys have done 2-car garages and I understand why you've done that, but
There were,
as of right, someone could come in.
But that's not what's buried, so. That's.
No, I'm just saying.
They just have to get a special permit.
Yeah, well, that's not.
No, our point is like, we would be more sympathetic for a 2-car garage, but that could be in the olden days. Now, you know, what the norm is 3 cars.
No, there's normally used to be 1 kind of, so we need at least 2.
Well, that's really what, I mean, that's what it comes down to, is the 500 feet we're asking for, whatever is 500, you know, that's our reservation price. right there.
Yes, he's asking for
538. 538 over, okay.
It's 1,000 square feet.
Less a shed,
Yeah.
throw in a shed.
And you don't need all 3 of those bays based on the design of the au-pair suite, right? You could do that au-pair over 2.
Yeah, I guess that's. Still, yeah.
I think that's what we said last time.
And what does that save us?
Nothing.
nothing, because it's over the.
Right.
But it's over the garage. Oh, well, you'd have to,
If you did 2 bays. What is
it's
the third?
244 square feet, I think roughly, 12 by 24.
It'll be way over, but that'd be much more palatable. The thing is still over because of this, but that's much more palatable to me. Because it's possible to build a 2-car garage here, but some, and within the.
I think the thing that Ford is really struggling with here is the hardship. The only hardship so far we've been able to have is that you're less than 2 acres, but as we saw on that map, that is not unusual with this property in that location. And the other thing we sometimes see with small properties is that when you take into account the setbacks, you really can't build a full-size house, right? We don't have that in this case. What we're really struggling with, at least I am, is the lack of hardship, but trying to accommodate your growing family. And that becomes, now we're kind of into personal hardships, not land hardships. Whereas normally we're dealing with properties that have wetlands or, some, and the relief is generally smaller to grant, so we're struggling still with the amount of the ask, what's driving the ask, and the lack of a hardship. Those three things are.
I think there is a hardship. It's the scope of the ask, to me, whether it's the minimum amount needed to make reviews. I think it is a hardship because they cannot build. It doesn't seem to, I feel like the existing 2-car garage is not functional as a 2-car
I
garage.
agree with you.
And to build any 2-car garage at all, we're gonna put them over the coverage. Might be 20 feet over, but it's gonna put them over.
Well,
We also have 3 cars, the nanny has.
Yeah, but we can't count, we can't.
Just, they
consider
don't
personal
know.
factors, Like we always wanted to be.
Strike
sympathetic,
that.
but we can't. So, I do feel like there's a hardship, it's the scope of the ask to me.
Yeah, it's challenging, right, because they expanded out on the current design to add the proper size garage. Granted, they'd have to do a bump out and maybe aesthetically it wouldn't look as nice. But it was stated earlier, like on the east side of the house, they have the ability to build up higher that would not impact coverage. That could get them some of the things they're looking to achieve above the garage. So I think that's where a lot of the coverage play has come into place, because there are probably design plans where you wouldn't even necessarily need to come to us for a coverage ask architecturally. And so for us to actually give you this much coverage over without any other type of hardship is a real challenge.
So one thing, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, say is that don't forget, we were, last time we had the 36 feet width, and that was what we were trying to get, that's what we were asking for. And obviously we shrunk it way down, so that our ask was a lot less. I know, like Luke's saying, that no matter what, there's going to be a variance. I think what you guys are, what's what we're debating here is, what's our reservation price on that?
I think Jeff's just saying it might, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you wouldn't necessarily need a variance, maybe you could expand off your existing garage. What he's saying, I was thinking you would have to put something else up, maybe if you could expand on the additional, on the existing one, you wouldn't.
Because you have about, let's see, you have right now available building coverage of 552 square feet. So if you build out to where the garage currently sits, theoretically, you could add 1, maybe even 2 bays. And then building above the current 1.5 story of the house that isn't built up yet to 2 stories, that does not impact. the
Yeah,
coverage.
then you could have your 3 bays then, because if you have 500 square feet, maybe you could have 2 bays, if you already have 1 bay, figure where it is now, and you could.
Where's the old parent live? I mean,
Well, that's what you're saying.
that's the kids, that's where the kids live.
No, you'd be building a new space.
Above the existing garage is where the,
No, you'd be building a garage off the existing one, so it's long.
You could have said like here.
no, are you guys staying there? No, that can't be done. I think they're saying come this way, east. Of the face,
Yeah, I mean,
extend the
there's-
face of the whole house.
Yeah,
out.
maybe.
Yeah.
Here's the as is,
Which space?
right? The 1.01.
There's a couple isometric in there. You guys have those? Those might be easier to look
Well,
at.
and since the second floor plan existing, you have on the first floor, the living room, the master bedroom, the walk-in closet, office. It does not appear you built up to the 2 full story height above all of that space. You only have two, so there is a way to still have private au pair space above there theoretically. That, I mean, so that's kind of what, I know
Yeah.
it might be more expensive, but this is why it's a challenge with the hardship. Because there isn't anything impeding that other than cost perhaps, the project.
It's more, I gotta take over the head. It's more of a function, because there's no way to get there without going through. You know, our space.
Well, no, or the other way, I guess you could do it, but you see, your existing garage has become, which I understand is undersized. But it's also it's gonna become the family, right?
Correct.
I think what Luke is saying is there a way to? But that,
Well, then linking it this way.
no, well, this is basically the
That's what
existing
I'm
garage now, so bring this wall out this way, right? The problem may be, you know, your family room is not as big as you'd like it to be.
Well, I'm saying, I think you have two options. One, you either build essentially 24 feet by 24 feet here and you get rid of this. Or two, you expand that. I think it's 6 to 1/2 is enough, but you're then building over a new space here. Is that
But
500 square feet?
yeah, but you still have to get stairs and stuff to the second floor.
Well, the stairs to the second floor, maybe the family room's not so big, or maybe the garage is so big, I don't know.
Or the master bedroom suite on the first floor becomes an au pair suite. And if you build out an extra bay, lengthen the bay, and it uses the 500 or so space of available coverage. And build above that the new master suite, and that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like theoretically, I'm not an architect, but I can visualize ways in which you could make this happen. Where you use available coverage.
Did
And
planning and zoning have a bylaw where you put the stuff in, I mean, you go 30% over coverage?
Yeah, so as I said at the last meeting, we're running into issues with, that, regulation may not be,
Sustainable.
yeah, sustainable with, rulings in superior.
But what I'm saying though is that I think this application might have been built under that proposal, just like things you're looking at. Didn't come up under that.
Oh, so this was not built under that,
Oh, well,
proposal that this property has never been granted a special permit for something like
but with that special permit, how many square feet could they have had?
that. They can go up to 140% over allowable coverage.
So that would bring them up to 3,165, that would probably bring them up pretty to where they are now, though.
more than.
They'll bring them to 4431.
Yeah, so, what I'm saying is that might not be the reason, just because of why we end up with this plan, is because, you know, the applications, David Radman is, like, the Dan Radman, the P&Z, might have been thinking about, you know, he had more space than. I mean, I can't get some, my biggest thing, he had more to work with that. And
Can I just, the question, just like the proposed new coverage is 4255, right?
Yep.
Am I reading this right?
Correct.
54525.
No, 4255,
Correct.
this,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Yes.
now, the allowable is 3717,
Yeah,
that's what's allowed. The difference between those two numbers, check me, isn't it only 438? Or am I doing something wrong?
I think it's 5 and change, I think. 4255, he's saying minus 6.
Mine is 3717. Just to confirm what that means.
it's 538.
Yeah. Yeah, the math, no, I'm just trying to make sure.
No, this one. So I mean, if it was, this is all new to me, sorry. If it was 300 over, like, would that be acceptable?
I still have a problem with the necessariness.
So if I close that off, then
No, but then the question is, what's the space needed for?
storage.
I don't have a problem with that, because plenty of houses with enough storage and aren't 4,500 square
But
feet.
he doesn't have storage.
I'm not-
Basement.
I have no basement, I have a 1,600 square foot house, that's the run. They just walk out of the dump.
You never met my wife. That's the hardship.
I have an 1880s farmhouse with only 3 closets, so, you know.
And don't lose sight of the shadow. I'll get rid of the shadow.
We can we continue this again, or we can't?
So we can ask for an extension. You have up to 65 days to ask for extensions of the applicant. So you have 2 months.
Or you already used one?
No, so you get 35 days. When you open a public hearing, you have 35 days to close it, which you were in by continuing this. You have up to 65 additional days to ask for extensions throughout the life of the application.
We haven't
don't have to
closed
close.
the hearing though, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we don't have to close it though.
No, you just have to ask for an extension and they have to grant it.
They have to grant it?
No.
Well,
also they-
look, we're all close it and,
And vote and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to be, if we're going to look to extend this, we have to be specific as to what we're asking them for, because we did.
Well,
ask
we
them
tried to
for
do
it.
that last time
Yeah,
and we didn't.
We weren't specific enough. We said.
I don't want to be so specific. though.
Reduce the overage, right, which we asked him to come back with something that was less than
Yeah.
what was the 808, which he did come back with a 33% reduction. So I think before, and what I'm saying, before we send him off to say, okay, we need you to rework, I think we need to say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish?
To
You know,
me,
how far-
136 Bs, if you came here at 136.
Why are you getting the 136?
Yeah.
I'm getting, yeah, I'm getting the, yeah, because I'm getting the. He has 552, a regular 2-car would be 576, that gives him 24, takes a shed down, that's 112, that's 136, that assumes, you know, he can't. Use this space, I mean, Jessica has a good point, you could add on the end here, do you really need it? Do you really need the full 576 then? But I'm saying like that. If you're looking for a number, that's the only number I can sit here and say is like a relative easy number, for me. That way we get to.
So to take off the third bay and then to get rid of the shed, is that what you're saying, Luke?
No,
Yeah, no, I'm saying minus, I'm saying he had 552. And if we were 136 above that, it'd be relatively, to me. I mean, I understand Jessica's issue, but that's no.
Or if you're requiring him to take out the,
No, for the shed, because the shed gives him 112, because he only has 24 feet to get to a 2-car. which
Well, I think-
Yes, now.
To your point too, like a lot of the extra coverage right now is being eaten up by connecting.
That's what I'm
the
saying.
garage, yeah. So,
it may be helpful to take a straw vote to see if in general there are even 4 affirmative votes that may in the future, can like, just to make sure that they're.
we can do that now.
Without closing, okay.
No, and I mean, I wouldn't be in favor of that.
Well, I'm just saying, are there 4 people that are even going to entertain? a
I think
credit
at least a few of us
Okay.
not like have raised concerns about the hardship arguments still.
Yeah.
That probably
Yeah,
signifies the non-for if you're looking for.
Just because is it productive to continue it again? That's more what I.
Well, I don't think it's productive without giving them, in my opinion, without just Cynthia's point, giving them better guidance,
Right,
right? That
right.
here is kind of where the, you know.
But what Sarah and Jessica are saying, it might be, the guidance might be 0. There's no hardship.
Well, then if that's really where the board is, then we just should
I'm not,
make a decision.
I'm somewhere 136 and above.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm falling there, you know, because again, I feel like I'm.
You all, there are 3 options to move forward with this. You can ask for a continuation and give them guidelines. You could close it and take a vote, or we could leave it up to them and they could decide that maybe they want to withdraw and go back to the drawing board and then resubmit.
But if they're gonna withdraw and resubmit, they might as well just have us vote, because what's the.
No,
point of
because
starting?
if you deny it, we can't hear them again for a whole year.
I thought it was a substantial.
I thought it depends how we deny it. If it's with prejudice, I think it's longer than if it's without prejudice.
So I mean, I can verify that my understanding is if you deny a variance, it's a year.
Even a substantially different one?
But I mean, would it be substantially different? It's the same project. It's the
I think it
same-
would be if they're coming in 12 square feet over, they come in on 6 square feet over, that seems substantially different to me.
Okay.
We should try not to go down that road.
I mean, just my opinion would be maybe if they're over no more than 10%. I mean, that's just my own personal,
That's close to, right?
yeah.
So 10% would be 300 square feet.
300 square feet. In my, that's just my opinion.
Pretty roughly.
I mean, because then you get into sort of the minimus, not, you know, but some.
I mean, the shed is not, well, when maybe I'd weigh that more, because it's right in the setback, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, we try to work with people here, but it's, to me, not gonna work as it is in front of us. And I'm not even sure if these plans can be modified to make it work, or if they're really gonna have to like re-conceptualize the proposal, is what I'm saying, because I feel like to move these, at some point they get so hacked up, it just like doesn't give them what they want.
Yeah.
anymore.
I mean, and then the argument is if, let's say we're all comfortable with 300 without the shed, I mean, then I just think 300 is 10% is sort of somewhat.
That assumes you get a hardship to get past the hardship line first, and you might only have 4 people that are past the hardship
And
line.
What do you, maybe we should just ask like guidance of 10% we allow.
No, do you think it's a hardship possibly, because the 10% doesn't matter if you pass the hardship?
Well, you kind of,
There needs to be.
I'm not hung up on the hardship.
I'm sorry.
I'm not hung up on the hardship.
Okay,
I think that I would be more inclined to looking at it from the standpoint of reducing coverage.
okay, this is what we're talking about. Okay, I'm in line with you.
Mhm.
What do you?
Christie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I do think there's obviously an issue with the existing garage, so it needs to be addressed somehow, but I'm not sure if this lands in terms of hardship or not hardship, but there's all this existing space, and so I have a hard time, maybe it's hardship then. Not seeing this addressed at all, and, you know, if you came back and said, we can't do it because of X, Y, Z, and those being like extremely legitimate reasons, then. But it's never been addressed, it's just, it's inconvenient, which doesn't seem like the best reason. So I don't have the percentage though either.
Yeah, I'm not gonna commit to percent, but I think they're saying 136 seems pretty easy to me.
Well, 136 is not.
I know that
that's
5%, I know.
Yeah. I mean, again, I would be at 10%, but we gotta go with the lowest common.
I mean. I really personally struggle with the hardship, but I also. You know, we want to encourage reinvestment in the town.
Right.
To some extent, and I'm having a hard time also. And I recognize this is not a strict interpretation, but I'm having a hard time figuring out who we're negatively impacting by this, right? And at a certain point, it feels like we're just being, you know, too tough. I mean, I struggle a bit with the whole thing, but.
What we're negatively impacting is you want consistency in zoning, you don't want spot zoning.
I agree.
Negative on a lot of things.
I agree
So
with
that's why
that.
we always want to give the minimum amount.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, like, you have to keep it as consistent as you can, because the goal over time is for properties to become more conforming, not more non-conforming. Like you pass the zoning, there's tons of houses that are non-conforming, the view over time is, let's try to get more things conforming. When they build most lots out, they tear down a house, they probably do make it more conforming. We're looking at a small segment of the applications, building permits or whatever, that are more non-conforming, and I feel like even if a neighbor, it's much easier to say no if the neighbors you're objecting, because I understand the problem you're dealing with. But I think even without someone objecting, we're governed by the law. And that's what I'm gonna follow.
That's the aspect I'm having, I mean, fortunately, there's two sitting practicing lawyers on this board, and I just always think about the future appeals process if there were one or any legal challenge, and I think it's helpful to the owner if there is an actual hardship that would stand legal challenge that we could cite to
I think
as the basis for
the
the variance.
reality is that's almost under any situation, the hardship is gonna be a reach.
Yeah, that's
But I think, you know, I'm kind of past the hardship issue is really with Cynthia, it's the amount of the ask. And have we gotten to the minimum ask? And a lot of what I've heard in both meetings is that there's a lot of personal preference and personal needs and whatnot that seem to be driving a lot of where we are. And then there may be other less elegant solutions that get us closer to a balance. I mean,
then maybe if you spoke to like an attorney in town or someone familiar with something, they might be able to help you formulate this in a way to feel hard better. You know, someone who has experience, and I'm not gonna say, maybe they'd help you, maybe they wouldn't, I'm just.
Yeah,
If
so
that's the problem, having someone who's like familiar with that issue might be helpful to you.
the hardship thing's new. We didn't talk about that last week. It was a coverage issue. So if there's no hardship, then I might as well leave.
That's what I'm saying, I think it sounds to me like you need 4 votes.
We should do a field trip to my house.
You need 4 votes. And it's extremely hard, like how I was on the last one, kind of being against like how Jessica is now. And when you're doing that, it's because you're trying to do what you know is right for the town, which is very hard, because like I was saying, we all want to do what's right for the people in front of us in our community. At the same time, we're governed by the rules. You need 4 people to get the variance, which means if one of them is having problems with the hardship, you need everyone else to be in favor of it. Or else, yes, it doesn't make sense.
well,
And
but
that's
what
what I'm saying, if you better frame your hardship.
What I'm hearing though is that not, you know, the board is split or maybe in general, and please correct me if you guys think I'm mischaracterizing, the board generally could probably get past the hardship issue if it's combined with a lower ask.
Right.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think.
know if that's true, saying that's not every member is.
No, it's not necessarily every number. I'm saying, the sense I get is that the board on balance, not, you know, not everybody, not unanimously, may be there. But look, if we're not, then, so I think my sense is, and my personal recommendation would be that you ask for a continuance or an extension, and that you sit down with Dan. You're, you know.
I don't think it's it, Dan.
Hang on, let me finish my sentence, please, okay? That you sit down with Dan, at least in terms of the design and the ask, and see what you can do there, okay? To bring it much closer. I mean, you're hearing 500 over is still, or 5, whatever it is, over is still way too big. There may be ways to reconfigure, as Luke suggested, spinning the garage or reorienting things that make it closer. That may be less elegant to Dan, but that may be what's necessary, because then your second issue is, and I do think Luke may be onto something, but it's your decision. Can somebody help you with the hardship? It's really not up, we're struggling with it. And it's not right for us to create, you know, really create hardship out of air.
I don't know what it would be besides the size of the lot, you know, as Dan put it, because I mean, this is my 30th day doing this. It's the first day last month, and so
Yeah.
if it's not that, then I don't think we have a case. Right, what else would the hardship be?
Maybe someone could assimilate it to other cases and make preference. It making.
Well, there's really not
I'm
precedent.
not saying precedent for a decision of the zoning board of appeals, but I'm saying precedent, there might be courts in Connecticut. Maybe not, but, that found, under similar facts, it was a hardship, I don't know the answer to that, I'm a tax lawyer.
But, Dan being on, I know he's not, but being on P and Z. I mean, I would think he would have the best knowledge.
I don't think, I don't think.
Well, that's true. He doesn't
Yeah,
really
I
know.
mean, P&Z deals nothing with hardships.
Yeah, no, I, all right.
That's a good question for the attorney,
Yeah, that,
again, land use lawyer.
Well, I'll talk to Dan and see what we can do.
yeah.
I mean,
So we
I
can't,
guess I feel bad and I was sending you back. and
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like it's really frustrating when I want to do a project for you, you're like,
But-
well, I did this, I came back, they
So-
asked them, and like, I'm having.
What I need is a
that.
garage apartment.
Like, I'm having a problem with that, but at the same time.
which,
Someone needs to let me.
Yeah, but I think that if
Like,
we're
oh,
we feel uncomfortable in giving them some type of guidance. I just want to clarify that, like,
well,
There may not be just one solution though, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if
there's-
it comes back with
well,
a
if
great
I,
idea we haven't thought of, then.
but I do think, I mean, I'll go a little bit. I'd ask the board if you guys. Ask, based on what we know now and without really taking a straw vote. If you think I've misread the board over the hardship issue, then we need to discuss that further. Because that is kind of a showstopper, right? If we.
I think it's a showstopper and it needs to be discussed because I don't want to send him home and say, okay, let's put together more plans, and he still comes back and he
Right,
has
and
to check the
he's
hardship.
burned our
And, you
expertise,
know,
yeah.
Yeah, and I think the only way you're gonna address the hardship. Is by having, and I don't know if you can or can't, I'm saying if, assuming you want 5 people voting. On them getting past the hardship issue, you're gonna need someone to identify how this is not a hardship issue. Based on the precedent or the law or something like that, I don't wanna speak for Jessica, but as an attorney, I think that's, like, reasonable, if it's a hardship, then show us how this is a hardship. Like there's, like we've said, we get a lot of very sympathetic fact patterns, someone needs something for a particular reason. We're not allowed to consider personal factors. As sad as the factors are, we're not supposed to.
Understood.
It has to be something related to the land, and that's a very hard position, because how do you say that when someone. Like my house would be wheelchair accessible, well, that's not hard, I mean, fortunately, we haven't had that. We've come close with ramps and stuff, but never,
You're allowed to
Yeah.
grant variances for ADA compliance,
I'm saying it,
but because
I would be
I
only.
mean, we've looked into, there's been some where it's been a wetlands issue, or there's, where some of the property just. May have 2 acres, but like a good half acre of it's unusable essentially, and that's why they're restricted, or. Why they might be in a setback might be because literally they can't build on the other side because it's a sheer gradation situation, so. While we can walk your property and look at it and look at Google Maps and things like, we actually don't know the condition of the land really. Unless someone looks at it for you and kind of tells you these types of things, but I'm just throwing out examples I know we've cited to in the past as being reasons, and. I think to other people's points on here, there's clearly a couple of people on the board, if not possibly even 4 or even 5. Who could be a little bit more willing to see past that if it was a more de minimis ask, but. That is hard because we are trying to always look to the mindset of, part of this is protecting town too. With the variance requests and making sure that we're doing, what we can. To make sure things are legally compliant to the extent that we do.
So, Dr. Dan?
yep,
I mean, absent taking a vote, I don't really know how to give him serious guidance, right? I mean, I think that's.
Luke said about speak with Dan and maybe, and may make sense for you to speak.
But
with
Dan,
council.
I think,
No,
yeah.
let's speak with council,
I
to
think
see if there's
before-
any hardship,
I
yeah.
mean, this is anyone's personal opinion, before I started spending a lot of money redoing plans, 'cause I feel like these plans would really have to be significantly redone to get what you want within what
Come
we
here.
allow, I would think talking to an attorney would
Yeah.
probably be an efficient use of time, because, so he could let you know if you can get past go. Because I mean, this is not, these changes are significant, you know, it's gonna be.
Well, I think it's
significant.
kind of a combination of things, because I think. What was mentioned is I'm sensing there are a number of people that could get past the hardship if, it's kind of both. If they get past the hardship, if the act was.
Small, but I think
Small
we have
enough,
to
but-
give them a quantitative number, so. he
I
has
just don't know how to do that. I don't.
Okay, I don't understand, I understand.
To Luke's point, though, speaking to a lawyer might be less costly than
I
trying to
agree.
the plans at any
You're right.
point. So maybe if a lawyer felt that they could make a strong argument for a hardship, then they wouldn't have to do as much to redesign the plans theoretically. Or if a lawyer said, no, I really don't think there's as much, and then they can look at how could we use existing coverage. and-
Correct, that's the approach I go down,
I
and it's to be much more efficient, someone with experience, we can probably look at this in a lot less time, than someone trying to like reconfigure all these things.
Yeah, I guess the reason I would throw a caveat to that is, you know, at some point, if this were a third about a 5 square foot variance, we wouldn't care about the hardship, because it would be de minimis. Whether it's 3-car garage or 2-car garage or whatever, I don't think we would be worrying about it. We wouldn't be beating this.
I still, I would
I
agree
think-
with that. I would still have to get past the hardship of 5 square feet. I think
I have.
Hey, Sarah, just a question, let's say I did come to you and I was over by 5 to 10 feet. Like real small,
So I-
would you even bring it to the board when you had the authority?
I would sit down and I would say to them, can you figure out a way to not go to the board for this? Like, can you whittle it down and then, so I mean, I tried to do that
Yeah.
with them to avoid that, so that's the first thing I'd say, and I mean, when we get these applications, you know, at the end of the day, it's their right to apply for it, so, I mean,
I understand,
Yeah.
they were
Okay.
okay.
all right, I think we, you know. We not wasted, but we spent enough with you in your time.
So
I'm sorry that this is so frustrating.
We apologize.
you need to just, you need to ask that we can continue to the next, because they need to grant us that session.
Yeah. You like us to continue it to the
I
next
would
meeting?
love one.
Okay.
And next time.
Yeah, but next month you'll have your
That's
baby.
back for everybody.
Wait, you can have a baby before the next month.
End of May.
Oh, okay.
What's that be a thing?
So,
Okay.
no, I should bring my wife. That's a good.
Again, you just.
Play the sympathy card.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just not us in this committee, as we keep saying, abiding by the rules, I mean, you know, but.
But I think I have a sense between the hardship and the coverage. It Needs to be something when we talk to Dan and see what. He wants to do. Right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I do think that Luke is on the hardship issue. And without saying, not being at all negative about Dan, I think as Sarah mentioned, as being part of P and Z, that's not what they often deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so
Attorney for the expert.
the land use attorneys are the expert.
The gentleman, the attorney that was here for the first application
Mhm.
is before us law.
Okay. Yeah, let me ask you, why did you get to go first?
We're not making
I said something.
recommendations or not, I can think of other people who are really, we're not recommending persons.
I gave grief for that.
You can look through all of the past, you know, applications, there's always, if there's been an attorney.
No, I'm kidding. I never
It's just
figured
one
you
that-
decided.
We see a lot, there's a lot of them that present before us a lot, it does see some.
Angry, what's the last?
That's that.
With, Conley and.
No, Amy's a permanent form
I
now.
just really want-
With the,
Oh, we changed it, but then the other
I mean,
law firm.
there's a lot of.
Sure.
There's a lot of good land use.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Oh, Amy's with, yeah.
Ruby Lodge.
And Darien, and yeah, that's.
Okay, all right, we added an agenda item. Karen, you wanna do explain?
First, I think we have to approve the minutes of the last. I don't know where you're.
I read them, the email, I didn't get my comments.
I've already read them, I'm fine.
You ever been?
Ben was so darn thorough,
Yeah, I
there's
know.
a comma that should be here.
It was good.
He is very good. Anybody else have any comments about the minutes?
Nope, I don't.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Okay,
unanimous.
so the next item essentially, we're not changing any of the meeting dates or fixing any of that. It's just the column closing date for application submission. I was doing a review of everything, and so our Word files go back to 1999. And from 1999 to 2017, the application's submission deadline was always Friday. And then in 2017, it got switched to Tuesday. And from a state statute perspective, that is incorrect. The Friday was correct, because essentially, when an application gets submitted, its date of receipt is the day of the next regularly scheduled meeting. The day of the meeting does not count. So we were previously saying, okay, you can submit the day after the meeting, and then we'll hear you next month, but it's incorrect doing that.
So
So
you have to present the day before the meeting.
Yeah.
For the next month.
yes, and so I was fixing that error that for whatever reason. It got, so from 2017 to 2022, we were operating that way, and I had found that. People were submitting right on Tuesday, and then we weren't hearing them when they thought they were going to be heard, and. There's a lot of awkward, why did it say this? So I'm trying to revert us back to how it was for 18 years previously, probably before that, but the Word docs didn't go back past then.
So do we need a motion to approve?
Yeah.
I move to be approved.
I second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay,
Are we close?
yeah, I
You still have the order.
move that we close the meeting.
Okay. I mean, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, we all recorded.
The game is about to start.